What is going on, you guys? Alex chasing back here with a brand new video. And the experiment in Atlanta with Dejounte Murray, that's over. He has been traded to the New Orleans Pelicans for Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, and 2 first-round picks. So in today's video, let's talk about the trade on the Pelicans side and on the Hawks side, starting off with the obvious winner of this trade, the New Orleans Pelicans. They bring in a guy in the backcourt who can finally be that ball handler, because they tried with CJ McCollum. That didn't work. And then you had BI at times running the offense. That's not his game either. But now you bring in someone like Dejounte Murray. He can run that offensive flow, have CJ be that natural 2 that he always was in Portland, and that works very, very well. On top of that, their starting lineup could look like this season: Dejounte Murray, CJ McCollum, BI, Zion, and at the center position, there is still a hole because Valanciunas is a free agent this summer. Do they bring him back? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure how much money he's going to be looking to get because he just came off $15 million. I don't even know if he's worth that much anymore. I don't know. Point being, the center position is still a hole, but that can be fixed. And if they want to run small ball, they could throw Herb Jones into that starting lineup, move Zion to the center position. They could do that lineup as well. The question mark here now is BI. There has been rumors that they don't know if they want to give Brandon Ingram a max contract extension. He's just coming off his 5-year max contract extension that he signed originally. But now with the new CBA, if they give him that max contract extension, they're going to be well into the first, if not the second tax apron. And I don't know if they're going to want to do that. Their reports are that is still a question. They're going to be looking to maybe move Brandon Ingram because they just haven't really found common ground yet. Brandon Ingram, of course, wants that max contract extension. The Pelicans are like, no, we don't want to go into these huge aprons, get taxed heavily, take away things from our team, like mid-level exceptions, certain things we can do in trades. They don't know if they want to have that barrier on them for someone like Brandon Ingram. So look for a possible Brandon Ingram trade this summer, maybe going into the deadline this coming season, if they cannot find common ground on a contract extension. Because the one thing that NBA teams hate to have is a great player on the final year of his contract. There's just a million questions about it. He could go in free agency and walk. He could come back, sure, but that's just a lot of questions that the teams don't like to have. They like to have that figured out before going into the season. Most likely that's what they would want, or at least in the season, they want to get that contract extension done. On a very lower example, because Klay Thompson isn't as good anymore or as coveted anymore, but look what happened with Klay Thompson this whole season. He went into the final year of his contract, and the whole season, there was questions to the Warriors, questions to Stephen Curry, questions to the whole team of stars there, and everyone was asking also Steve Kerr, Mike Dunleavy, the GM, what's going to happen with Klay Thompson this summer? And no one had an answer because no one really knew, because they just couldn't find common ground. It just causes a lot of unnecessary questions during a season. So maybe we could see a BI trade this summer. But either way, if BI is out of the equation, you could still have a fantastic starting lineup of Dejounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, or Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, and then again the center that we don't know who that's going to be. Or you could do that small ball lineup with Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and then Zion at center. Either way, things will still work out in New Orleans because they bring in another star that I think will fit really, really well. Great ball handler, great facilitator. We missed this in Atlanta because Atlanta is just not a defensive-minded team, but Dejounte Murray, when he was in San Antonio playing with Pop, one of the best two-way guards in the league, I think that will come back into existence in New Orleans. They're a very solid, sound defensive team. So look for him to become that good defender that we always knew. It just disappeared in Atlanta. So I'm excited to see Dejounte Murray in a new setting because it just never really worked in Atlanta. Him and Trae Young were too similar in a way, too ball dominant to make it work. And the defense was just lacking all around the court. And it just wasn't really a good team fit for Dejounte Murray. Someone who's supposed to be a really good two-way player was around someone in Trae Young who's not. Of course, on the offensive end, he's great, but on the defensive end, he's a revolving door. And it just never exactly panned out. On paper, I always thought this team was supposed to be better than they were. They had DeJounte Hunter, they had Clint Capella, Bogdanovich, Okongwu off the bench, Jalen Johnson, who started to turn up last year. Just things never exactly clicked with this team. And I think after, 2.5 years, they were like, yeah, we just got to pull the plug, go in a different direction. And this leads to the Atlanta Hawks side of things. They're going into a rebuild or retool. You could say retool depending on what they do with Trae Young. That's still up in the air. Woj said they're still going to be figuring out what direction they want to do, and that means are they going to trade Trae Young and go a full rebuild, or are they going to keep Trae Young and do more of a retool around Trae Young? So that's an interesting topic, again, to keep your eye on this summer. And there were rumors all year, because this isn't the first time we heard about a Dejounte Murray trade. This is just finally the time they did it. We heard rumors all year about Trae Young actually might have less value than Dejounte Murray. So I'm not really sure what they would get for Trae Young, because they just got Dyson Daniels, a salary dump to make the salaries work, and Larry Nance Jr., and then 2 picks. And those 2 picks aren't even great picks. The 2025 first-round pick is via the Lakers. And assuming the Lakers are just, as good as they usually are, that's going to be out of a lottery area. Maybe it could be like in the late teens if they're not amazing. But either way, they're not going to be a lottery team, I would assume, this year. And on top of that, the 2027 first-round pick is the least favorable of Bucks and Pelicans. And if Giannis is still on the Bucks, that's going to be which he will be probably, that is going to be a 2020, not a 2020, that is going to be in the 20s pick, anywhere from 20 to 30. In the first round. So yes, they get 2 first-round picks back, the Atlanta Hawks, but they're not some high lottery picks or high coveted picks. So that's the value Dejounte Murray got. What would be the value Trae Young gets? So that's a huge question there, if that is true, that Dejounte Murray had more value in the trade market. But then diving into the Atlanta Hawks and what they got back, I just talked about the picks. They bring back Larry Nance Jr., who's just to make the salary work with Dejounte Murray's contract. And then they bring in probably the most highly wanted person in this trade, Dyson Daniels, because he has a lot of question marks, but also a lot of solid potential. The offensive side of his game has not clicked yet, not in any way, but the defensive end, that has been there from day one. And I think that's the reason why the Pelicans drafted him originally, is because his defensive ability was there. Maybe he could eventually turn into a great two-way player, but he's still really, really young. He is only 21 years old, so he has a lot of room to grow. But his just offensive side of the game has just not really clicked yet. But maybe it can with Atlanta, playing around someone like Trae Young, if he's there, learn how to shoot the ball, because he could be potentially a great two-way player. But this year is a huge year for Dyson Daniels. He really has to prove himself in this league so he's not diminished a role on another team. Now, in New Orleans, it wasn't necessarily his fault. They just didn't really want to go super young. They didn't really want to give him a shot because they wanted to play CJ. They wanted to give those minutes to Jose Alvarado also. They wanted to give the minutes to already proven guys on that roster when it came to the guards there. Or even he could, play the wing a little bit. They're obviously going to give those minutes to Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, B.I. They just didn't really want to try Dyson Daniels anymore because his offensive game was just so undeveloped where they wanted it to be. But now in Atlanta, on a bad team, maybe a bad team, they can give him minutes and allow him to grow on the offensive end. But then this leads to the question that we just don't know yet. Are they going to go retool mode by keeping Trae Young, but pretty much everyone else gets moved? They try to make some moves there. Or they go full rebuild mode, getting rid of Trae Young, let Clint Capella walk, trying to trade off DeAndre Hunter, who's already 26. He came into the league around 21, 22 years old. So he was already an older rookie. So he's already 26 years old. You just dump him off, try to trade him. Try to trade Bogdanovich. Obviously, he's older. You keep maybe a Kongu because he has a lot of good potential, who's been hiding behind Clint Capella. You have Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson. I would keep him. He showed really good flashes last year. So they have some ways they can go. We just don't know what they're going to do yet. But for the Atlanta Hawks overall, if let's just say they do a retool, you keep obviously, assuming they keep Trae Young. They have Trae Young, Zachary Razor-Shea, who they just drafted number 1 overall. Still some question marks there. The European players, when they come over to the NBA, you don't know how exactly it's going to translate, but I think he's going to be a very, very solid player. In this draft that was kind of looked down upon, I think this was the best pick for them. Alex Sarr, I believe if it was true, he did not work out with the Atlanta Hawks. So the really only option was Zachary Razor-Shea, which I think works well. They needed a wing. And does this mean they move off of DeAndre Hunter, who's making some big money? So a lot of question marks with the Atlanta Hawks. It's not just Trae Young. Do they keep Trae Young? Do they keep Clint Capella? Do they keep DeAndre Hunter? Do they keep Bogdanovich? Or do they move all of them? Or do they just keep Trae Young and just build Trae Young, Zachary Razor-Shea, keep a Kongu, who I think has really good potential, who's just been hiding in the shadow of Clint Capella? A few question marks here for the Atlanta Hawks, but they did just have the number 1 overall pick. So it would allow them to completely rebuild, and I don't really think many people would question it. Rebuild around the number 1 overall pick, or just retool with Riser Shea and Trae Young. That would also be cool as well, I think. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. The reason why you couldn't see me the whole time is I am actually away. I am on a quote-unquote business trip, going to the sports media event that I'm excited about. But anyways, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Unless I make another video while I'm away, you will see my face in the next one. See you guys very soon, and like always, peace out.